What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I'm glad you stopped by. Today, this version of Shop Talk, we're going to talk about a lot of the things that I've been seeing over the past couple of weeks that indicate to me that the globalists are going full force with their, planetary depopulation, one world government, bullshit agenda that they've been pushing for openly. If you dare go read their own printed documents on their websites and whatever, all the way back to the, what's the group I'm trying to think of here? The Rockefellers, Rothschilds, all those people. They've been heavily influential in our political class for, 40, 50 years now. So when you see these things happening that you've been researching for decades and decades, like myself, my big wake-up call was probably 9/11. That's when I started really questioning everything and wondering, can I trust my government? And the answer was no. A profound, resounding no. You can't trust them. Because, like the old saying, George Bush murdered that saying that time he was trying to do the quote. What did he say? You fooled me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, don't be fooled again. Of course, that's not the real quote. The real quote is, fool me once, shame on you. No. Fool me once. Now I'm doing it. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. No. That's not right either. Damn it, George Bush, you ruined it. I used to have that in my memory. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's basically the expression as it used to be. But George Bush added the, we won't be fooled again, or don't be fooled again, like from The Who, so that was kind of funny. But in reality, guys, we are on a sinking ship. We are on the Titanic. The iceberg's hit. The damn ship's split in half. The band's still playing. That's the media. The band is still playing the tune to keep everyone distracted. And I get it. In my last video, I kind of went heavy after people that are sports fans and stuff like that. It's not just that, and I don't begrudge anyone that wants to disconnect from a lot of this political stuff and watch some sports once in a while, whatever. My point is that I see these distractions as bread and circus. But the real reality is so many people, especially in this horrible economy we have going on ever since Biden came in and ruined everything. A lot of people don't have any choice. They can't dedicate their mind or their brain power to looking up a lot of these controversial issues. For one, they'll have to go down the rabbit hole, and that takes a lot of time to actually, discern what's truth and what's false, because there is a lot of false stuff out there, even among the conspiracy theory minded groups, right? And I hate to use the CIA's invented term, but I guess we have no other, let's just say the skeptical people that are skeptical of everything out there that the mainstream media and the federal government talks about. Those people, they tend to exaggerate and elaborate stories and stuff like that as well. So you have to, really discern all of this different information and find out what's actually true, what's factual, what can be traced, what's not. Well, I'm telling you guys, the Agenda 2030 and Agenda 21 is in full effect. The Great Reset is in full effect. All of the, Bilderberg group people and all of the Davos people and all of the other, what is it? The group of 300, what's it called? Committee of 300 or something like that. I don't remember. There's so many of these damn Illuminati type people that are out there that it has to be true. Okay. And you look around at a lot of the different signs that we've seen, look at the paintings at the Denver airport. It's clearly some sort of a message to someone, probably the globalist, that, hey, come here. This is where you can seek shelter after the SHTF happens. And all the plebes, all the poor folks will be up on the surface dying of radiation poisoning, right? And that's a more and more likely possibility as every day goes by. We're going to start the show off here. The first news article we're going to talk about, I don't have any headlines written down. I'm just doing all this by memory. But the first thing we need to address is the 130 plus people that were killed over in Moscow last weekend, right? Friday night, I believe it happened. Same sort of a situation that Israel faced back on October 7th or 8th, whenever their attack was, right? It was a concert. All these young people were there at this concert. And According to the reports, some ISIS-K members came in, like, I don't know, 5 or 8 of them or something like that. And they came in and just opened fire. I'm sure you've seen it now. 130 plus people, the last time I checked, were deceased because of this terrorist attack, right? And I'm not denying the fact that this group of people that claim to be ISIS-K pulled it off. They did pull it off. My question is, who started ISIS? Who funds ISIS? Who put them up to this? Why does the CIA have like 13 or 14 bases right across the border from Russia? Could it have been the CIA? I think so. This is exactly in their wheelhouse. They love doing this kind of crap. Now, am I saying that those guys that the Russians have captured and they've beat the shit out of them, man? You can see from the mugshot pictures that they released, these guys got a good, old, healthy Russian ass whipping, which is exactly what they needed to get. And they were complaining. The media is all like, oh God, it's so awful. They cut one of the guy's ears off and made him eat it and all this stuff. And that is awful. But after you watch a lot of your people being murdered and stuff like that, I can kind of make some exceptions and have some more understanding why you would treat a terrorist in such a manner. Maybe to send some sort of a message. It sort of reminds me of one of the most, how can I phrase this? One of the most falsely told stories and tales that there ever has been, or exaggerated and elaborated tales that there ever has been. And it has to do with the person they called Vlad the Impaler. Back in the day, all these Muslims were coming over and doing things. They captured him and his brother, took them back to their, Islamic place, wherever that was, right? And they raped his brother several times. I don't know if they actually raped Vlad the Impaler, but that was pretty common practice for, these older Muslims to rape young boys back then. It's still going on, right? I mean, that's just wrong. But in their culture, it's not wrong. In fact, I believe it talks about how in their book, I can't remember her name, but one of Muhammad's wives was like 12 years old or something like that. So that's what gives them the justification for, taking these young prisoners and making them one of their concubines or whatever, right? Well, some deal was worked out with Vlad the Impaler's father and these Muslims, right? He basically had to give them his kids so that they would stop attacking. Well, Vlad the Impaler watched all this stuff going on. He watched his brother become a gay person, become a homosexual, because I guess he liked it or whatever. And he ended up, siding with the Muslims. And Vlad was like, nah, fuck this. I'm going back to my, estate, my family estate, and we're going to take over and we're going to change things. We're going to make a scene. We're going to make these people understand that the message is, you come here, you fuck with me, I put you on a pike out there. I impale your ass, literally. And I think the message was received with some people that are a violent culture type people, like the Muslims. You have to respond in the same sort of way, or they don't understand. They never get the message, right? So I know I said a lot there and we kind of went off track, but my point is that, history is, makes Vlad the Impaler into, Dracula and all this stuff. There's all this weird little, fairy tale stuff that comes along with it. And a lot of people look at Vlad the Impaler as like, oh God, what an evil, bad dude. But they don't actually do the research and look and see, why did he do this? It's not that he did it. I'm not saying I condone that kind of activity right now, or that anything that's happening right now justifies that sort of activity. My point is that the people that are retelling the history are not telling you the whole story intentionally. They're leaving certain parts of that history out so that you don't understand the motivation behind Vlad the Impaler, right? So anyway, I think there's a lot of that goes on. I was comparing that, I pulled that out to compare with the guy getting his ear cut off, right? I mean, that's nothing compared to being impaled. But these guys are going to get the death penalty almost instantly. Putin has already said he's going to kill every damn one of them. And I bet he will, because he doesn't have all of the apparatus of, the judicial apparatus stopping him from doing it. He can actually do that sort of stuff. Now, am I saying that's right or wrong or whatever? No, I'm not saying that. But right after his election, which the Ukrainians heavily tried to disrupt. There was attacks. The mainstream U.S. media didn't talk about this, but there was massive attacks on election day and trying to disrupt the inevitable. Everyone knew Vlad Putin was going to be president again. Everyone knew. Our CIA, our government. Of course, that doesn't mean we're not going to try to stop that, which is exactly what we've been doing. So, who do I think did this? Well, the face of the terrorists are the ISIS-K people. But the people behind them that put them up to doing this are probably CIA, Mossad, MI6, whatever other groups. I don't know what France's group is called, but whatever other groups are present in those CIA bases that are, in my opinion, they shouldn't be there, but they are there. 13, 14 CIA bases right across the border from Russia. What kind of a message do you think that sends to Putin and the Russians? The CIA, the group that if they are not, unless they're walking around with blinders on, they understand that the CIA has caused all of this stuff, all the way back to 2014 when Victoria Nuland, John McCain, all the other people, several rhinos came in there, and a bunch of Democrats, and were trying to basically overthrow a duly elected government that Ukrainian people had voted for. That's the essence and the definition of democracy. And yet, here the Democrats were back in 2014 under Obama and Biden's directives and Victoria Nuland and all these others with George Soros's money, overthrowing and inserting their own pro-Western puppet. That's historical. That's fact. Okay? NATO has violated the not 1 inch rule. And I know, a lot of people are going to come in and say, well, that was never actually written down anywhere. But they had a verbal agreement between Gorbachev and, I don't know who it was. Somebody high up in George Bush Sr.'s administration, I believe, is when that deal was made. And they assured the Russians at the time that NATO would not expand 1 inch towards Russia. And yet, ever since then, that's all NATO has been doing is expanding. So, Russia knows, man. They're not dumbasses. They know that the CIA and the United States is behind a lot of the problems in the world. We're stirring up the hornet's nest and walking away and seeing what happens. I mean, go back and look at the Arab Spring down in Egypt and who was responsible. Who was the ones that got that whole thing going? Who were the ones that stirred up that hornet's nest? It was the United States and the CIA. So, I'm probably not telling a lot of you guys anything, but there are a lot of people out there that, like I said, they don't have time because they're working, 40, 60, 80 hours a week to try to make ends meet in Joe Biden's, what do they call it? Bidenomics, right? In other words, for raping your savings and your, hourly income. He's admitted he's going to tax the shit out of everybody if he gets a second term. So, to pay for their stuff. This has nothing to do with Russia, and we'll come back to Russia here in a moment and the terrorist attack. That was horrific. But, Biden and the Democrats and the House that's supposed to control the purse strings just gave Biden a blank check, basically, for $1.2 trillion to continue the government because they're so worried about a government shutdown. They're so worried about that. The Republicans are always worried about getting pinned for shutting down the government. It's time to grow some freaking cojones and start saying, no, we're not going to do your goddamn unlimited spending bills that always have all this pork for your special causes, your special LGBT things, and all this other crap that you guys want to get going. The destruction of the United States of America, the destruction of the family, the destruction of our economy, the destruction of our borders. He kicked the borders wide open when he first came in and said, yeah, come on over, basically. Rolled out the red carpet, told people not to enforce the laws. And then he goes, oh, there's no crisis on the border for the first 2 years. And then finally they acknowledge that there's a crisis on the border. And what are they doing about it? They're sitting on their hands, doing nothing, pointing their fingers at the other side, saying Donald Trump did this. The Republicans did this. So, there's nothing new under the sun. This crap has been going on since the dawn of time, since the first two people got together and said, hey, I'm in charge of you, okay? That's how old this crap is. How do we break out of this crap? Well, you have to be informed. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to look at the hard things, the things that make you uncomfortable. And a lot of people, I guess, aren't willing to do that these days. And that's unfortunate, because that's exactly how tyranny takes hold, is they put the masses to sleep, which have been effectively, they're effectively, most of them, I'd say like, I don't know, at least 60%, it seems like, maybe even higher. It might be as high as 80% of the people are just brain dead zombies, worker bees. That's all they'll ever be. They'll never understand anything complex, anything that has nuance to it. It blows their mind. That's why the Democrats can come on TV, on all of their platforms, which they control 99.9% of the televised platforms that are out there, and probably a large majority of the internet platforms that are out there are under the, MSM label. And they'll say and make you believe whatever is convenient for them at that time. Trump's a racist, without saying, without providing any actual proof. They'll pull excerpts out that, the very fine people quote, right? And they won't go into depth and show you the entire quote where he condemned the Nazis in the beginning and then said, hey, there were probably very fine people on both sides. What he was talking about was that some people wanted to tear the statue down and some people wanted to preserve the statue. That's what the whole thing was about, right? And liberals got away with calling him and accusing him and effectively labeling him a racist among all of their supporters. I talk to people on the other side occasionally, although that number of people that I can talk to is getting smaller and smaller. But I talk to these people and they say these things as if they're fact. And then when you pull out the actual quote, they don't want to acknowledge it, because that basically breaks their, I don't know, it allows cognitive dissonance to take effect in their mind, and they can't handle it, right? They just can't handle it. So they get to screaming, they get to yelling, they get, whatever, right? They can't take it. They can't actually debate anything. So that being said, that's the vast majority. There are a few, intellectuals on the left, but you could be intelligent about a lot of things and still be dumber than a bag of hammers as far as geopolitics or American politics and things like that, right? I've seen it many, many times. People that come off as extremely intelligent, but then you start talking anything political with them, and either they don't know, they're too uncomfortable, or afraid to talk or broach those sorts of topics, right? That's how they got us, guys. That's how they got us. They made it to where, you can't talk about that stuff. They don't want you talking about anything of any consequence when you're at work with your coworkers, right? Because if you start talking about some, what they perceive as an unhinged right-wing rant, they'll just run your ass off. They'll fire you for it. Meanwhile, the liberals can come in, they can wear their LGBTQ pins, they can wear their Black Lives Matter pins, all that stuff's fine. But you try to wear a Christian cross or something that says, a MAGA, right? Wear a MAGA hat. They'll be like, oh, no, you can't wear that. So everything is one-sided. It's all set up to be the perfect double standard to favor the Democrats. And I wonder sometimes, what would it really be like if we actually had a level playing field? If the media, if there was actually 50% of the media that represented the right-wing viewpoint, and then 50% of the media that represented the left-wing viewpoint. For one thing, I would argue if there really was this imaginary 50% of the media that represented the right, I would argue their traffic would be unlimited. They would have so much success, it would put these other people on the left to shame. And that would be one way we could kind of get the pulse of what the American people had in mind, right? But see, they don't want it that way. Instead, they've got 99.9% over here representing the leftist viewpoint, and 0.1% that represents the right, and that's misinformation. That has to be stopped. We have to do everything we can to stop them. Nothing about that represents a democratic society. Nothing about that represents a republic, or the way the founding fathers had set this country up. Nothing. It's completely anti-American with their new philosophy. And I'm sure you guys have been following, the ones that do take the time to follow the news. I mean, you know, they've been trying to go after Trump's properties. I mean, it doesn't get any more communist than seizing your number one political enemy's properties for some bullshit charges. I believe this is the case. I mean, it's hard to keep up with them because there's so many going on. They're just throwing all the shit on the wall and finding out what sticks, right? Well, this case, I believe, is the one where supposedly Trump overvalued a property that he owns in Florida, not New York. But for whatever reason, this New York judge, the one that has a personal vendetta against Trump, this New York judge is on the case, and he's saying that Trump overvalued Mar-a-Lago. Now the latest report came out, and it turns out Trump undervalued Mar-a-Lago whenever he got that loan or whatever. And New York is trying to say, well, you know, you lied about your property and what it was worth, so we're basically getting you for that. You know, I don't know what they call it, perjury or whatever the hell they call it in their legalese, you know, lawyer speak, right? They don't make it so clear cut so most people like me and you can understand it. They got to use a bunch of their bullshit lawyer words to exclude normal people that could understand that sort of stuff from understanding that sort of stuff. So that's part of their little, you know, I guess we'll call it magic, because that's exactly what it is. It's like, you know, we use this language over here and only we use this language. And, you know, some of you guys might understand some of that language, but only, you know, we really know what it means, not you. We really understand it. So unless you have that, you know, law degree or, you know, bar association, whatever, sticker on your vest or whatever, then you're not doing shit. We don't care what you say. You're disinformation, right? That's how simple it is for them, or misinformation, right? You remember their whole disinformation crazy ass, what was that? It's like a psycho Mary Poppins that they had. I can't remember the lady's name now, but she didn't actually disappear and go away. They just moved her to a different place where you wouldn't notice, where most people wouldn't notice what actually happened. So, guys, all hell is breaking loose. The economy is in free fall right now. Although you wouldn't know it looking around. You wouldn't know it if you go over to the store and watch and see what other people are putting in their basket, because most people are going on and carrying on like nothing's wrong and like this is going to last forever. We got to talk about one other communist thing that just popped into my mind. This is another common tactic of the communists. They love to come in and seize farms, just like they're doing in Oregon right now. I couldn't believe my eyes when I read the headline that the Oregon government has declared homesteaders and small farms an environmental hazard that must be stopped. So they're going in and attacking homesteaders and small scale farmers, you know, like the organic type farmers and stuff like that, that bring you the good stuff, right? The people where you could actually go on their farm with permission and they'd probably give you a tour and show you around at how the animals are taken care of and how they're happy and healthy, and they don't get stuck in these damn animal factories where it's, you know, 100,000 chickens in one little building and they never see daylight. That's not the case with a lot of these small farmers. Most small farmers operate like I do, and they let their chickens free range, and they let, you know, they give their livestock a better life than they would have had if they were on some big factory farm. But Oregon is sending a message to these small farmers and homesteaders and people like you and me that want to survive on our own without input from outside sources, right? People that are independent minded, you know, self-reliant minded, might want to pay attention to this, and honestly, might want to get the hell out of Oregon as fast as you can. Because if they're coming after farmers, small farmers like this, nothing is sacred. This is a communist tactic. They control the means of production all the way down to the farm. There are story after story after story after story of communists coming in, seizing farms, and starving people out. It's exactly what they do. They might let you keep farming under communism, but you're going to give every bit of the food to the communists when they come and when they need it. I mean, that is not how you have a free society. That is not how you have and practice self-governance, individual liberty. These are things that apparently Oregon has forgotten all about. And this just popped into my mind. Another state that this should be massive news. There is a female Democrat, black woman in the state of Tennessee that's like a state senator or state representative. I can't remember. Forgive me, I'm not looking at the headline. But she openly called for riots last week. She was like, yeah, we need to go out and have riots because this new police bill passed. And I'm anti-police. I'm defund the police. I'm BLM. In other words, she is a fucking communist. She wants to destroy the ability for people to feel safe in their own homes. They don't like that, see? They got to destroy the cops. So anything that favors the police force or does anything like that, she's going to come out and say, we need to go have riots in the street. Now, fortunately, I don't think anyone listened to her, including the people there in Tennessee. So this shit ain't over, guys. We're coming up on a massive election year. And if you guys remember all the shenanigans that happened before the 2020 election, massive riots, people blocking access to voting booths and stuff like this, people blocking access to Trump rallies and things like that. I remember like in Arizona or New Mexico or someplace like that, these massive groups of people were coming out on the highway and blocking people from being able to go to some Trump event, right? That's a big deal. That's a direct violation of those people's right to free travel, to go to the places, to hear the opinions and views they want to hear. But see, the left has nothing. They can't come out and argue with us and prove to us that we're wrong. So the only thing else they can do is resort to violence. We all remember during the summer of violence, a lot of us hopefully remember, that there were pallets of bricks just showing up before they would have a big riot in a city. All of a sudden, there was no construction going on, no bricklaying going on anywhere near there, and suddenly a pallet of bricks would show up. Who did that? Suddenly, right before all of the Soros-funded buses showed up with all the out-of-state protesters that showed up to destroy and loot these cities, these Democrat cesspools all across the country, yeah, a pallet of bricks would show up. So I think we covered a lot of stuff here today, from the open borders to Biden's, putting us into an economic free fall, destroying the economy. I mean, go buy shit at the store. Go buy something. Go buy a bag full of groceries and tell me that things are better now than they were under Trump. If you say that, you're fucking delusional. You're out of your mind. You're living on some other weird, make-believe, in your mind only utopia that only exists for you, because the rest of us are having to double up on our work just to be able to buy the same groceries we were able to buy under Trump for half the damn price almost. Not everything is 50% more, but a lot of stuff is. A lot of stuff is. And I'm telling you guys, it's going to be one way or the other. There's either going to be a reckoning coming, and the United States people, the ones that have been asleep for so long, are going to either start waking up to this crap and there's going to be a reckoning, or full-blown totalitarian communist rule is coming to your country. There's the choices that we face right now. And on top of all that, the threat of nuclear annihilation has never been higher. Never been higher. Joe Biden shoulders all of the responsibility for that. 100% his fault. Where are the, climate people saying, you know what? If you launch a whole bunch of nuclear weapons, that's pretty bad for the climate, right? I mean, what is it? I can't remember how hot it is, but it's like 3 or 4 times hotter than the surface of the sun, every single nuclear blast. So you can imagine, maybe, let's say 40 or 50 U.S. major cities get nuked. What's that going to do for the climate? What's that going to do to all the little, spotted owls and, bullshit slug that you're worried about, some farmer or some developer destroying and you have to stop them? What's that going to do to Big Bear's Ear or whatever the hell it's called? All those places that Biden has been restricting human access to. What's it going to do? It's going to irradiate them for, hundreds of years. It's going to make them uninhabitable for hundreds of years. And yet I hear no Democrats, I hear no leftists that are anti-nuclear war. None. They're anti-nuclear power, though. They don't want you making that cheap, good nuclear power because, cheap energy means that people are successful. And they don't want people to succeed under this system. They aim to destroy everything you and I hold dear. Everything. The family, the border, the economy, the ability for you and I to have these conversations like this. Everything. Nothing is sacred to them. Nothing. And so, that's why they have to do all this stuff. That's why when all their globalist policies are failing, they need a massive war so they can blame everything on the opposition, right? So they can blame everything on Putin, right? In this case. That's the plan, guys. There is no way in hell that Biden got 81 million votes last time, and there is no way in hell he's going to win and beat Donald Trump in a fair election. But I think we all know it's not going to be a fair election if there's even elections that happen in November. So when I tell you this is a house of cards and Biden is wandering around with dementia, bumping into all of the bottom cards, and I tell you a massive collapse is coming, I mean everything, they would love nothing more than to bring the United States, all of us, Democrat and Republican, to our knees, to our breaking point and beyond. And if that takes nuclear war, so be it. If that takes a massive, false flag even, cyber attack or power grid attack perpetrated by our own people, then that's what they would do. That's exactly what they would do. They got people at the CIA right now that have already war gamed every single possibility in every single scenario. And they're just waiting for the people on high to give the command. And it ain't Biden. It's somebody else. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's George Soros. Maybe it's Klaus Schwab. Maybe it's Bill Gates. A lot of people say Bill Gates is actually the leader of the Democrat Party now. I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, guys, we're in a lot of trouble. You better start prepping right now. And I almost said praying. And to be honest with you, that might be the first thing you need to do is start praying. Start praying for cooler heads to prevail. Start praying that somehow this corruption in the Biden regime will be openly debated and exposed to the masses. And people will understand that this guy has been fucking the United States of America for the last 50 years. I was telling my wife the other day, we were talking about it. She said something about the hairy legs thing. Remember when Biden was like out campaigning? He was sitting at that pool or whatever, and he started talking about to all these mostly black people in that neighborhood. He started talking about how Corn Pop, he didn't want him to jump off the diving board and get in the pool because he had Jerry curl juice or something like that. He didn't say it so clearly as I just said it. I will admit that. I'm paraphrasing. But Biden didn't want this guy Corn Pop and his friends jumping in the pool because they had Jerry curl juice on, right? It was during that time when that stuff was really popular. And anyway, that's what started the whole fight with Corn Pop. And when Biden had to go over and put a straight razor in a rain barrel to get it extra rusty, you can't make this stuff up. The guy is he's just a wacko, right? Well, that part of the story was bad enough. But what I think a lot of people miss was he starts talking about cockroaches as he's talking to this crowd of mostly black people. And I believe whenever I listen to it in context over and over and over and listen to the whole thing, I believe he was saying that that's how it was, is that people would come up like cockroaches. And somehow or another, he got into the hairy legs thing and how the kids used to come up and rub his leg hairs and stuff like this and all. Just creepy as hell. Even if they did do that, why would you say that, right? Talk about out of touch. And my wife, when I told her about the cockroaches thing, she was like, oh my God, he really said that? I'm like, yeah, it's been a while since I heard it, but I remember him talking about they would come out like cockroaches and stuff like this. And I'm pretty sure he was at that time talking about the people that were not necessarily the people that were in the audience that day, but the people that were there at the pool back when this story took place, right? Which were probably also mostly black people, would be my guess. And there's just been numerous times that he's been on the wrong side of every issue, especially the racial issues. I mean, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. I mean, I think if I was a black person, I'd take some big offense to that, man. I think I'd be pretty upset about it. I think I'd be telling all my friends, don't vote for this fucking racist. This guy is a real racist. Not some fabricated Pinocchio made up BS like they said about Charlottesville, but most people don't bother to go and dig a little deeper. They believe what the mainstream media says. So, how fucked are we? We're all the way fucked because we've allowed people, career politicians like Biden, and also deep state politicians to come in and rape us right before our very eyes, and no one has done anything about it to stop it. Or very few people, right? Very few people have had a lot of results trying to stop it. Let's put it that way. And so, yeah, we're in trouble. We're all the way screwed. And speaking of the deep state, that just reminded me a moment ago. Did you hear last week, the New York Times, I believe it was, actually said that the deep state's actually a pretty good thing. So, in case you didn't know, they're pretty cool, actually. I'll try to, if I can find it, any of these headlines that I've referenced, I'll try to put them down in the comments or something, or down in the description for you guys to go read it yourself. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, they actually freaking said the quiet part out loud. They love the deep state, and they admitted it over and over and over. And they go on in this article. I read the whole damn thing. They go on and on in this article about how, oh, well, there's all these people that are back there behind the scenes that they never get any credit. See, they're the ones that should get the real credit. And oh yeah, they should get the credit for destroying our country, bringing it to the point where it is right now, where I'm telling you guys, I can just feel it. We're beyond the edge of the cliff. We're beyond the broken Titanic. Most of us are already in the water drowning, and we don't even realize it. That's how drunk on the goddamn Kool-Aid people are. Prep up while you can. Time's running out. It's going to come like a thief in the night, as it says in the Bible. And when it happens, it's too late to do anything about it then, other than just lay there and starve and die. So I don't want that for anybody that follows the Hands-On channel. So please get out there, get serious about prepping. I would start with cheap things and easy things like beans and rice and canned foods and things like that, canned meats, different things like that. And then maybe go back and watch some of our other more advanced prepping videos where we're talking about fats and salts and sugars and other things like that. I mean, go to other prepper channels. Learn what you need to do to survive. What does the human body need to survive? Most people have no clue. And those people are going to die rather rapidly once SHTF happens. So I wish it wasn't like this, man. But it is. And we have to deal with it. So appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too.